Jeff's Superscript is brought to you by Black Cat Comics and Collectibles. In my opinion, the best comic shop and clubhouse on the internet. Make sure to follow them at Black Cat Burbank on Instagram and ask them about their Stray Cats Club for special perks. Hi, I'm Jeff, and welcome to another one of my videos. We are here on location at Black Cat Comics and Collectibles to do a little bit of a CGC unboxing. But I don't consider this an unboxing video per se. I am putting this underneath my Test Your Comic Book Grading Skills videos. Why? Well, I'll explain it in just a moment. What we have right here is a 9/8 pre-screen submission of 40 books that just got back from CGC. For your reference, these were sent off to CGC at the beginning of March and just got back at the beginning of August. So it was about a 5-month door-to-door turnaround. So like I said, this is going to be part of my Test Your Comic Book Grading Skills videos, but I never saw these books. I don't know what's in here. This is more of a test Octavio's comic book grading skills. Octavio is a friend of mine who's very generously volunteered to allow us to look at his submission to CGC for one of these videos. Thank you very much, Octavio. So what we're going to do is we're going to unbox these boxes. We're going to take a look at all the 9/8s that he got. We're going to enjoy them and say congratulations, Octavio, on all of your 9/8s. And it looks like he did pretty well. But I do know for a fact that out of the 40 book submission that was sent to CGC, at least some of them got rejected. The ones that got rejected, that's where the Test Your Comic Book Grading Skills aspect of this video is going to come. We're going to assess those books. We're going to see if we can't figure out why CGC didn't give them a 9.8. One last thing I will mention, and this will become much more relevant when we assess the books that were rejected. These books did not receive a press. So it looks like Octavio did pretty good with his books, even without a press. So I'm going to go ahead and dig into this box first. Now, one thing I'm going to mention is that CGC ships things back in a maximum of 25 book submissions. So this bigger box right here, I can basically tell right away we have 25 slabs in here. Unless for some reason they decided to put the raw rejected books in this box, but I really doubt it. I have a feeling that probably they are in here. In fact, no, the raw books are in here. Interesting choice on CGC's part. I would think that they would just, like, if they're going to do a maximum of 25 books in a box, that they would have just put all of them in here, and that they would have, you know, used the raw books as a way to fill space in this second box, but they didn't. So maybe we're going to figure something else out about that, but let's go ahead and take a look here. Looks like there might be raw books in here as well. So once again, an interesting choice on CGC's part. But we're going to go ahead and dig in. Now, one of the things I like to do in these videos is I like to show how good of a job CGC did with their packing. Because if you saw my original video that I made on this channel, you know that CGC's ability or lack of ability to pack these books securely is of particular interest to me. But it does look like CGC did a pretty good job packing these books. I'm going to just kind of tilt it over to you and just kind of show you. They're all in here pretty tightly. And this is a thing of raw books right there. And similarly with this one. It really looks like they've gotten better with their packing. Everything's tight in here with possibly some more raw books right here. And then, of course, there's a little bit of extra space. They stuck some bubble wrap in there. Of course they would. That's going to make sure that these books don't jump around and end up getting damaged in shipping. All right, enough. We've got a lot of 9/8s to look at. So we're going to take a look at these, and then we're going to see what the raw books are and assess those. All right, going through them in no particular order. Oh boy, first we have Venom 26, the Unknown Comics Virgin Edition. That's really nice in a 9.8 white pages. We got another one of those right here in a 9.8. This is a Venom 27 a Kirkham variant, cover C. Batman 100, Kirkham variant cover in a 9.8. Venom 27, the Kirkham variant, cover A. Another one of these. Same. Spider-Woman, issue number 5, the Momoko Virgin Edition. Here's another one of these. This is Batman 100. Kirkham variant cover. Another one of these. Batman 100. The Thor number 8, the Alex Ross sketch cover. We have a very nice Harley Quinn's Villain of the Year, issue number 1. This is the Scorpion Comics Virgin Edition. Deceased, issue number 1, the Crane variant cover C. Here we have, if there are raw books in here, it's extremely light. We'll get to that in a moment. This is Harley Quinn's Villain of the Year, Scorpion Comics Convention Edition. Looks like the one we saw before, but in a different costume. And I can see right here, we have another one of those. Back to this original one that we saw before. Another one of those. Venom number 28, the Kirkham Virgin Edition. And there is another one of those. And another one of those. Check it out. We got one of these. We saw these earlier. This Venom 26 Unknown Comics Edition. Got another one of those right here. The virus spec, man, the spec around these books was so hot there for a while with virus and codex. It's kind of cooled off since then, but they're still really cool books. And with Donny Cates, I often think that anything is possible, that at any point all of these characters just could come back, you know. Here we have a different one of these. This is Amazing Spider-Man issue number 50. This is the Alex Ross sketch cover, this time of Spider-Man. Amazing Spider-Man issue 797. This is a convention edition. Web of Venom Wraith issue number 1. This is a variant edition of that book. Black Widow issue number 3. This is a J. Scott Campbell variant cover. Next we have, oh, this is cool. Oh, and they sent you back your certificate of authenticity. That's interesting. So we're going to talk about that in a second, but let me show you this book first. Wow, this is really nice. This is Star Wars issue number 7, the Christopher variant cover. This is one of those negative space covers, that he's been doing. This is really nice. Limited in production to only 4,000 copies. That's very, very cool. Now, what is also cool is that CGC actually sent back the certificate of authenticity. That's really great. I'd actually heard that you shouldn't send in COAs or certificates of authenticity to CGC because they're just going to toss them. They're not going to manage them and they're not going to send them back to you. So I'm glad to hear that that is not always the case. I would still recommend that you don't send in your COAs and that you don't send in your certificates of authenticity to CGC because you do run the risk of not getting them back. But it's really great to see that in some instances CGC will stand up and make sure that that gets back to you. Next we have Wolverine Number 6. This is another Alex Ross sketch cover. It's so cool. Another one of these. We've seen a handful of these. Man, this is just a great. I understand sending in multiples of the same thing, especially like when you're doing a 9/8 prescreen, because why not? You buy multiples hoping that you're getting a 9/8. Getting 9/8s is so subjective that it's kind of like they might look perfect to you, but CGC might see stuff that you don't know. So if you want to ensure that you get at least one 9/8 out of it, you know, you send in your 3 best copies of something and hope that at least one of them comes back in 9/8. And if all of them end up coming back in 9/8, well, then good for you. You have a ton of 9/8s. Here's another one of these. I didn't notice this before. This one has like glitter in it. Oh, it's glow in the dark as well. Well, this is very cool. If you watched one of my previous videos where I unboxed Carlos's books, I'll put the little card for it right up there. He had a J. Scott Campbell that was of Captain Marvel, if I'm remembering correctly, that was also had glow-in-the-dark elements. I started to kind of warm up to the idea of glow-in-the-dark books. They sound really fun to me. This is nice. This is great. Year of the Villain, Hell Arisen, issue number 3. This is the first appearance of Punchline. Well, the first full appearance of Punchline. Oh, you have 2 of them. Very nice. Very, very nice. And then, oh my gosh, I think there's more in here. Yep, there's another one. Yep, he's got 3 of them. That's very cool. Yep. He's got 4 of them. 4 9/8 of the first appearance of Punchline. Very nice. Very nice. All right, let's go ahead and we're going to quickly, just for fun, open up these right here. See how many of them are in here, and see what the books are, and then we'll go through and we will assess them and see if we can't figure out why they didn't get a 9/8. Once again, as a reminder, these books, none of them were pressed. So it's entirely possible that you could just press these and resubmit and get a 9/8 out of them. In fact, that's something that some people do. They're kind of like, I don't want to pay for a press. Let me send them to CGC as they are without a press, see how I do, which Octavio did really, really well. And then basically have CGC assess them, and I'll pay them $8 to tell me, yes, that book needs a press. If you imagine if he had paid for a press on all of these books, even under the previous CGC costs, would have been expensive. Okay, so one of them is this book right here that we've seen a handful of. That's not too bad at all. I mean, he's obviously did really well and got a few 9/8s out of this book. It looks like there is another certificate of authenticity. Oh, they sent back, this is for the deceased book. So that's really good that they did that twice. They sent back these numbered kind of certificate of authenticity. So that was nice of them to do that. And then let's see how many books are in this other one right here. The way I see it, if you get, I don't know, on a 25 book submission, if you get over 20 of them, 9/8s, if you're doing better than 80%, I think you're doing pretty good. 80% for Octavio here, I think would be, I'm trying to do my quick math, would be 8 books if they got rejected. So if he did better than less than 8 books getting rejected, he did well. I think he did way better than, I think he had way less than 8 books rejected, because it seems like there's only about 4 or 5 right here. Okay, so this one is, okay, so it's a lot of these, so far it's a lot of these. So it's this negative space one right here. They sent back the certificate of authenticity, so that's really great. It's another one. I want to make sure that doesn't fall. Another one of those right here, also with its certificate of authenticity. Another one of those as well, with its certificate of authenticity. And then two more, both with their certificates of authenticity. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books that got rejected, and 34 books which got 9/8. That's really, really good. That's a little bit above 80%. I can't do the quick math right now, but that's a really, really good score. It is interesting to me that so many of them are of the same book. So it'll be really great to assess those and see if they have some maybe kind of common flaw, just to try to figure out why they didn't get the 9/8. So let's go ahead and do that right now. All right, let's go ahead and see if we can't figure out what the problems are here. First, I want to show you what I do to assess books. I take them to this area where I have some overhead light. I shine them straight down and I shine them on the book. Now, you'll see flaws interact with the light. You see how the light right there along the edge of the book split into 2 circles and it was 1 before? That's indicating to you that there is a crease there. There's going to be another one happening right here. Okay, so we see it very clearly. There are some creases in this book. They would be helped with a press, but that's not the problem with this book. Here's the problem with this book. Oh boy, that is some damage. There is no way this book is ever going to get a 9.8. And there's no way that Octavio would have ever sent this book to CGC looking like this. This is highly questionable. Now, one of 2 things happened. It either got damaged in shipping or it got damaged at CGC. That's the book. That's the bag and the board it was in. You see, it got damaged while it was in this bag and board. Here we have this book, and there are some, little indentations in there. You can see them in the light next to Luke's head. You see them here as well. These are all things that could be fixed with a press. This next photo shows you a little bit of a lip there on the edge. I bet you that could be fixed with a press as well. None of these problems are significant. There's one on the back as well. 9/8 can have flaws, but I think for this book, it's a accumulation of these little bit of indentations that kept this book out of being a 9/8. With a press, I think that this book is going to get the 9/8. Now here we have video of the second of these books. I'm showing you again what I do with the light here to find flaws and indentations. You see there's one right there by the bottom of the screen. There's one up there in the top light there. You're also going to see here along the bottom of the book, there's a little bit of an edge, a little bit of a lip. This is nothing significant. All things that I think would be fixed with a press and would help get this book closer to a 9/8. You'll see this is a common flaw we're seeing in these books is this kind of indentation here on the back. You see it runs through the book. It's pretty light, except for that part right there. That part there is probably what set it over the top out of the acceptable damage for 9/8. I bet you we could get a 9/8 with a press. Here's the third one of these books we're taking a look at. Once again, this has similar defects. Little indentations here and there. Nothing too major. Nothing that I think in and of itself would take it out of the 9/8 category. One at the end of the lightsaber there. Now that one right there along the spine, I'm going to show it to you. You see a little better right there. I think that this is the reason why it didn't get a 9/8. I think that indentation is just too severe. That the graders at CGC said, listen, it's just too bad. We can't give it a 9.8. But once again, I think this book can be fixed with a press. Taking a look at the back here, we see a similar indentation through the Star Wars logo there that we saw with the last book. Similar right there as we saw with the last book as well. I feel like somebody handled it with their thumb right there and put indentations on it. So it's not too bad. I think all of these indentations can be fixed with a press. Here we have the fourth one of these. This one is an interesting one. This one is definitely in the iffy category. It's got that damage along the edge there. It's got this scratch there in the black that's actually pretty bad. I think a press could fix that. I am no expert, but I do feel pretty confidently that a press could fix a lot of these other flaws here on the front. Now, the reason why this book might not have gotten its 9.8 was that instead of any one indentation being severe, this is more about an accumulation of indentations, possibly being too much for the grader and too much for them to put it in the 9.8 category. The back of this book looks similar, if not even just a little bit better than some of the other books, through the Star Wars logo. It's right here along the spine. I'm going to try to dig it out as much using that light as much as possible. But you see the spine stresses on this book are worse than they were on the other ones. And that one's pretty bad, and I think that's over the top. It's also potentially color breaking. It's hard for me to say for sure with this light, whiter background, but those are some questionable defects. I think a press would help this book a lot, but I'm not as confident that it would put it into the 9.8. And finally, we have the last one of these books. This one is interesting in a similar way as the first one that I showed you, the very first book that I showed you here in this assessment. We'll get into that in just a moment. It has some of those little kind of lifts there along the edge. It has some of the indentations. But look at this indentation right here. It's running down from Luke's right shoulder through his right elbow. There's a little bit of that indentation. Well, not a little bit. It's actually pretty significant there next to his sleeve. But look at it running up and down the book there. It looks like somebody dragged something across the front of this book. It is pretty clear to see when you're looking at the book, even without this overhead light. I cannot imagine that Octavio would have sent this book in thinking that it was going to get a 9.8 with that drag across the front. So once again, there's a question. Did that happen in shipping, or is that something that happened at CGC by a CGC employee? You see similar indentations there on the back, but then look at that top left-hand corner. That takes this book officially out of any 9.8 contention forever. You cannot press that crease out. This book will never be a 9.8. With that damage, Octavio would have never sent this book to CGC. Okay, so we've gone over the 6 books that got rejected as part of this 9.8 pre-screen. Some of the flaws in these books were obvious. I barely took them out of their bag and board, and I was like, I see immediately what the problem is with this book. Some of them were a lot more subtle. I'd say about half of them shouldn't bother getting a press and a resubmit, and maybe the other half could benefit from a press and resubmit. What is most interesting about this is that when I talked to Octavio about these books, he said, that wasn't there when I sent it to CGC. That's very concerning. Some of these are so obvious, and he says I would have seen that in a heartbeat, and I believe that he would have. So it's odd to me that they have such obvious defects. Now, it's easy to blame CGC. Sometimes, though, it might just be submitter's error. Sometimes we're looking at, multiple books. I know that me personally, sometimes I'm assessing book after book after book, and I go what I call comic book blind. And I start to just not even see comic books anymore. I just barely even look at them and move them on. But it's also very possible that these spent a long time at CGC, and they were sitting around and they got stuff stacked on top of them, and they got bumped here and there by somebody handling them, and they received damage while at CGC. Unfortunately, we'll never know. This is one of the many reasons why I recommend when submitting to CGC that you take many photographs, if not video, front and back, of every single book that you submit, so that if you ever feel like CGC might have damaged your book, you have some kind of documentation that shows what the book looked like raw when it was in your possession, so that you have a leg to stand on when confronting CGC, potentially, about damages. But all in all, this was a really successful 9.8 pre-screen submission without any of the books being pressed. Congratulations to you, Octavio. Well done. And thank you so much for sharing your submission with me and with everybody. I learned, as I like to say, I learned so much with every single one of these videos, and I absolutely learned something in this video as well. If you like this video and you like my content, likes are appreciated by me. Like I like to say, just minimize, hit the like button, boom, you're done. It's easy. Also, if you haven't already subscribed, I would invite you to do so, but make sure you hit that notification bell because these types of videos come out at random and you might not want to miss them when they do, and hitting that notification bell will make sure that you don't miss them when they're submitted. All right, thanks again for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.